Today, I wanted to go over one of the designs that we did for a client and take a closer look at some of the reasons why we laid out some of the things the way that we did, and give a couple explanations on some of the areas and go a little bit more in depth in the design. So let's take a look. So the first thing that we're going to do here is just build out the floor, making sure that it's to scale. We'll throw down some texture. It might not always be 100% accurate to what the client's maybe planning, but we try to get it close. This particular project is going under a pavilion, so I do like to show some sort of post just to get some orientation. And then we will start building out the actual kitchen structure. This will have bar seating all the way around. So we just try to fill out some of those details. That kitchen is going to wrap the posts there. The client also wants to do this corner piece. That is where they will be putting the EVO Grill. And then we're going to start facing the countertop. This part took me quite a while to find the right veneer for the setting. So I had to look a lot. So we're going to fast forward through that part a little bit. Okay, so we're back and we have the veneer on the kitchen. We're going to build the center island portion. Client wants a little bit of bar seating there. We're going to put the veneer on that as well. Now we're going to start popping in, or at least importing, some of the appliances that the customer is looking for. So they're going to be doing fridge, EVO, trash. They're actually doing two burners, a double burner and a power burner. And then a lot of storage is what this client wanted. So we're trying to fit as much as we can in there without overcrowding the kitchen or having it be too tight. Like I said, they wanted a double side burner. I ended up just using the same power burner model and actually just scaling it down to a double side burner because they are from the same company and essentially the same. We're going to match the angle here of the corner for where the EVO is going to go. Just give it a little bit more room right there, but also a design consideration to have it kind of match that angle and look nice and neat. And building out the countertops as well. And we're going to do a nice black piece of granite on there. And making sure that we get the small details, the overhangs, and those things. Alright, so we have the countertop area for the kitchen done. We did add a bar wrapping all the way around. So now we're just going to go ahead and get the center island as well. And start popping in some of the appliances. So once again, the EVO is going to go in the corner. And I think that's a great area for that. It's kind of a unique piece, and it'll draw your eye there and be a really nice looking kind of piece of equipment. I initially wanted to do a combo under there, but then I decided to actually make that a lid storage for the EVO. Myself cooking on an EVO, it can be a little cumbersome and kind of annoying to store the lid, so it is really nice to have just an area that's accessible for that piece, so it can be stored right underneath. We're just going to higher that up a little bit so it's not so low to the ground. A little bit of overhang on the bar. They want to add just a couple bar stools there as opposed to the full height chairs that'll go on the bar. Gonna pop in the sink on the end there, so it's kind of out of the way of, maybe most people's views. Trash unit. We're gonna get the door under the sink, obviously for access to the plumbing. Popped in a couple of vents that we'll use in a little bit. The burners are now going in. We'll square those up a little bit and then get them right and space them out so they're not too tight to each other, and we can have some working room there. Popping in, once again, storage was important, so we have to have some access for the gas under at least one of the appliances, and then double drawers and triple drawers. We're going to do fridge and triple drawer again. I thought about playing with swapping these two, but it ended up being too tight in the center island, so I decided to go back. We're just kind of now squaring up some of that spacing and buttering a couple of these things up. We're going to make the cavity for the fridge to go into, push that back a little bit, and just kind of butter up some of these kind of last minute details. Ventilation, we like to have enough ventilation and plenty. If you can hide the vents, it is helpful. But in this scenario, we don't have any gas appliances in the center island. However, it does really help that cavity, especially for the fridge, to be able to breathe and release some of that heat from the compressor. Now on this side, of course, we have the gas appliances. The client is propane, so we are going to put the vents lower. And just making sure that we have plenty of ventilation back there. I don't think the backside really will be seen too much, but it is unfortunately just kind of a necessary evil to have that ventilation, whether it's hidden or not. And then we do want to add outlets into the riser or the backsplash. This is great for people, for anything really. If you want to charge your phone while you're sitting at the bar, obviously if you need to plug in really anything, a blender, any electronic appliance. Some people like to use the countertop ice makers, and plenty of power is always good. You can almost never have too much power. So now we're going to be popping in the stools. There's going to be counter height stools, just a couple at the center island, and then the wraparound bar will be a 42-inch bar height, and that'll obviously house a lot more stools on both sides of the kitchen. So now we're pretty much done. We can kind of go ahead and get a nice spin around of the kitchen, kind of make sure we're not missing everything, just kind of get a nice little look, top view and whatnot. Now what we're going to end up doing is presenting this to the client. So the way that I like to do this is essentially I just grab a bunch of different pictures of different angles of the kitchen, the fronts, the backs, pretty much every kind of view that I can grab, especially of looking kind of head on at every angle of like the appliances, the center island, kind of all those. And then of course we're going to get the top down, which is going to be really helpful for when we lay out the dimensions that I'm doing right now. This lets everyone know, including the homeowner and the builder, that it is to scale. We'll delete some of those things just to clear it up and make it easier to see. And we'll make the dimensions a little bit bigger. So now we know everything is to scale. We can do a couple call outs saying, some of the overhangs and those things. And this is just going to be our basic plan view. Now I like to grab just front views of, once again, kind of every area, and this is for the call outs, so that way we can let, once again, the builder and the homeowner know exactly what they're looking at. We can call out where the EVO is, the double drawers, the burners, etc. And we're going to do this for pretty much every revision, as well as every side of the kitchen. So now we have the PDF ready to present to the client. We'll email this over to them and see what feedback they have. This is just the first revision that we did. We did end up doing more revisions for this customer and finally closing on a final kitchen. And we ended up adding more storage space for them, which once again was important for this client's needs. It's important to have a design that can show everyone, the homeowner and the builder, the flow, the functionality, and the scaling of the kitchen, and making sure everything fits and is going to meet or exceed their expectations. Thank you for watching the video. If you have any questions or considering a kitchen yourself, please feel free to reach out, and I'd love to get together and talk with you about your project and maybe even get you over a design.